Hi, everyone. Dr. Vicky here, speaking to you from the Seeds of Transformation Healing Center. It's time for Taroscopes again. We're going to be doing the Taroscopes for the sign of Leo. That's Leo Sun, Leo Moon, Leo Rising for the month of October 2025. Before we get started, I just want to welcome my new subscribers. Welcome to this wonderful community of like-minded souls. To my tried and true who have been with me for years, you know I couldn't do this without you. I really do appreciate your support. To my new members on my channel, on my YouTube channel, welcome. There is more information and videos to come, a few more deplorables to look at, and a few more adorables to look at. For those of you who are wondering what I'm talking about, check out my options to be a member. There are two levels, and if one fits into your budget, please do join us. Um, I do put a lot of stuff out, whether you're a member or not. So if you can't afford that, I'm not really going anywhere. I'm still here. And for my Patreon people who have been with me for years, and actually my Patreon is starting to grow again. So I do appreciate all the new members on my Patreon and all my tried and true on my Patreon as well. So thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity to share my knowledge and support me in the ways that you do. All right, so let's talk about Leo. Full disclosure, before I got on, I fluffed my hair because it was pretty flat, and I'm like, I can't do something about Leo with flat hair, so it has been poofed to the best of my abilities, which for a Leo rising is actually quite disappointing. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the astrology of the month of October. Then we'll look at, and specifically look um, how it affects you, Leo. And then we'll get to the card reading. I am going to timestamp this, so if you just want to get to the reading, you'll have that option. It'll be in the drop-down menu. All right, let's get in on the astrology. Okay, so we're looking at the astrology for the month specifically of October. Before we get into the stars, I want to talk about the numbers. We're working with three vibrations this month. Of course, we're in a 9 universal year, 2025. 2, 2, and 5 equals 9. And so we're in a year of the Hermit. The Hermit is a card of wisdom. It's also a card of a sense of being alone. And that loneliness or that loner energy is really there so that we can evaluate what it is that we want to keep in our lives and what is it that we want to release and let go of. We are moving into a new 9-year vibration next year in 2026 when we move into a 10-1 vibration. So as we were moving into a new 9-year vibration, for the next 9 years. This year really is about deciding what we want to bring forth into that. And that's connected to the 9 vibration. We're also in the 10th month, right? October is the 10th month. And so we look at the 10 vibration. And the 10 in the tarot is the Wheel of Fortune. The Wheel of Fortune is a card associated with change, with the cyclicity of things. So there's this sense of that which was at the top is on its way down, and that which was down is on its way up. So there is this sort of switching that occurs, and it's in the Kabbalah. That particular path is called the conciliating intelligence. And what it does is it balances things out. Like nobody can be at the top all the time and nobody can be at the bottom all the time. And so what we will see is we will start to see, I think in October, something that might have been harder to see in September, that there really is change and that those people who have held all the cards are now starting to lose their cards, and those who feel like they've been left behind, or the meek shall inherit the earth kind of thing. There we go. All right, so that's an energy, and then if we add those two vibrations together, we get the 19-1 vibration, which in the tarot is the star. The star card is a card of revelation, so we can expect to have some revelations this month. It's also a card about rebirth. It's a 1, so it's about new things coming in. So we're going to start to feel like there's something new brewing. Whether or not it's actually, it's not certainly going to be fully manifested, but it is in its way connected to 2026. So there are some things this month, October, sorry, 2026, that are going to resonate in 2026. All right. Um, so if we look at the month, we start with a square between Mercury and Jupiter. Those are the two planets associated with how our mind works. Mercury is our sort of logical mind, whereas Jupiter is our more intuitive, creative, right brain, left brain kind of idea. And we're coming off a very tumultuous month. We're coming off of September, which is a 9-month. In a 9-year, the vibration last month was the moon. The moon is often lunacy, and there was a certain amount of lunacy, or quite a bit of lunacy, in September. And things coming out from under the surface that we're seeing that perhaps we were not aware of, that came out. And so now we're in a new vibration. We're in a 10-1 vibration. So there is this sort of sense of rebirth, but not completely, because there are things that still have to happen in 2025 before we can actually have that rebirth. But we do have a lot of information, energy, argumentation as we start the month. On the 6th of October, Mercury will ingress into Scorpio. Now, Mercury is very penetrating, deep penetrating thoughts, bottom line stuff with Mercury in Scorpio. But it doesn't have an easy run. As Mercury moves into that fixed water sign, it gets inundated by the other planets that are at the beginning degrees, and many of those planets are the transpersonal planets, and also Saturn, but actually Saturn is back in Pisces. So the Saturn aspect likely occurred at the end of last month, but we still have Mercury making an inconjunct to Neptune and an inconjunct to Uranus and a square to Pluto. So the three transpersonal planets are all sort of, I guess we could say, on the attack of Scorpio, the Mercury and Scorpio, requiring us to really find out the information that we need to find out. Mercury and Scorpio, but also being influenced by our evolutionary journey. With all this new evolutionary energy coming in, the old ways of doing things, the old solutions, the old plans are not going to apply. And so we have to come up with new, more evolved ways of thinking. And of course, that new, more evolved ways of thinking goes in the direction of the future, not the past, right? And also, it's a more progressive future because now we have Pluto in Aquarius, which of course, there's a lot to go, and that means a lot. There's a lot of layers to that, but generally, the theme is moving in a more egalitarian direction. On the same day that Mercury moves into Scorpio, we have a full moon in Aries. Now, Aries is a fellow fire sign for you, and so there's always a flow with other fire signs. The full moon in Aries, the moon in Aries, is how are you feeling about yourself in your place in the world? The sun is always opposite, and the sun is in Libra, asking us, where do I fit in this back and forth between myself and others, right? Do I want to fight? Do I want to agree? Do I want to sit down and talk to these people? Like, there's a lot of that. Okay. On the 8th, we have a lovely sextile between Venus and Jupiter. Both Venus and Jupiter are in very helpful signs. Venus is in Virgo, Jupiter is in Cancer. Both those signs want to help and want to nurture and want to take care of. So it is a waxing sextile, and so it is about opening the lines of communication. So after the full moon in Aries, perhaps we do sit down with people that we don't necessarily agree with to have some sort of consensus. Now, I know that's pretty pie in the sky, and it's probably not going to be a complete thing because we're not really there yet. But remember, we're in this new vibration, this sort of we're starting to see the wheel turn, um, in a way. Okay. On the 11th, Venus makes an opposition to Saturn. That's always challenging. Venus is the planet of love and social order, so being social. With Saturn opposite, we can feel like we're being there's like an overlord. People watching there. This could also be a financial thing because Venus rules money and Saturn is lack thereof. And so we might actually get a real reality check as to where the economy is or our sense of our economy. Okay. Um, on the 13th, Venus ingresses into Libra, and it's a new sign, right? So we get activated by the personal planets. I mean, by the transpersonal planets. However, because we're moving into air and two of the transpersonal planets are in air, we're actually creating a grand trine with Pluto and Uranus and Venus in the sign of relationship. And so we can see quick changes in relationships that could be personal relationships or they could be relationships of how we relate to other countries or how we relate within our country, right? So there's a shift and a change with this. It does make an opposition to Neptune. Neptune is still at that first degree of Aries. And so there can be Venus and Neptune are connected because Venus is Neptune is the higher octave of Venus. So they're always connected in a way. And Venus is much more practical, whereas Neptune is much more impractical and wants to see the biggest picture possible and wants compassion and all of those things, and sometimes can delude itself, especially in relationships. So you do have to be extra careful about who you relate to this month. Just, it's okay. You can relate, you can sit, you can talk, but you really have to have a lot of discernment, before you jump head first into something. That's what I want to say. Um, on the day that Venus ingresses into Libra and opposes Neptune, and Pluto stations direct. Now, when these transpersonal planets, Pluto, Neptune, Uranus, change direction, we usually see something happen in the outer world. Um, but because it's also changing direction, it's built up a lot of power, which makes the grand trine with Venus that much more powerful. On the 14th, which would have been actually Charlie Kirk's birthday, we have Venus making a trine to Uranus and Venus making a trine to Pluto. That's the grand trine I'm talking about. So we can expect, I think that particular incident is going to have much bigger influence than where he stood actually and what he stood for. It's almost like it's there, but it's not the thing. It's not the thing. I feel like it's more he is going to perhaps represent how people feel like they can't say what they want to say lest they get shot at, or so you're not allowed that freedom of speech stuff, which is interesting because not to be political, but there is one side that's trying to keep us from speaking our minds, and it ain't the left. Okay. All right. On the 17th, we have the Sun square Jupiter. The Sun square Jupiter can be very arrogant. There can be some arrogance, egotism. or just overextension. So however it is that you might overextend yourself, don't do that. Don't hurt your back. Don't do stuff like that. Okay. On the 19th, we have Mercury make a conjunction to Mars. This Mercury-Mars conjunction is happening at 20 degrees of Scorpio. Mars-Mercury conjunctions, you can use speech as a weapon, or there's a lot of power in the speech. So however you choose to use your speech, as a weapon or as a conduit for better understanding, for healing, whatever it is that you want to put, whatever words you're saying and the actions that you put behind them are going to be quite powerful at this time. So you do have to watch your words and only say the things that you really want to see instead of, arguing with people who you're never going to convince anyway. Okay. On the 21st, we have the new moon in Libra. It's actually at the 29th degree of Libra. So just before it moves out of Libra, involvement in humanity's evolution of wisdom. Well, I mean, isn't that what we're all doing anyway, or hopefully? We take from our ancestors and pass to our descendants, and thus co create flowing and flowering of knowledge. And so it's important that you tell your story. It's important that you talk to people in your family or people that you're connected with in spiritual ways, to share what you know, how you see things, so we can act as a bridge between the past and the future. On the 22nd, we have Neptune ingressing back into Pisces. Now, it's been in Aries now for a number of months, and it is not quite done in Pisces. It's actually going to go into the last degree of Pisces. It's only in the last degree of Pisces because Neptune moves so slow. It's moving backwards into that last degree. It's going to turn around, I think, in December, and then it's going to start coming forward again. And it doesn't actually get into the sign of Aries until, I think, January or February. Saturn and Neptune are moving together. So one of them moves in first. I think it's Neptune, but I could be wrong. It could be Saturn. But it's happening pretty much within 2 weeks of each other. And then on the 20th of February, 2026, Saturn and Neptune will conjoin in the first degree of Aries. And that's really when we start a new consciousness. That's really a new consciousness. So we have a lot to go between now and then. And you might say, well, that's not really that much time. But if you look at the beginning of September to the end of September and the shift, those shifts are going to continue to happen and likely happen faster. Although I do think we're going to start to see a little bit of light in the darkness, because I feel like a lot of people feel like they're in a very dark place right now. All right. So Neptune ingresses into Pisces. The Sun, which is at the last degree of Libra, then in conjuncts that Neptune. And then the Sun moves into Scorpio. And just like when Mercury moves into Scorpio, the Sun is also getting inundated by the energy of those transpersonals, making an inconjunct to Uranus, a square to Pluto, and of course the inconjunct to Neptune. So we have the Sun now in a yod. We had Mercury before at the beginning of the month. Now we have the Sun in the same yod. The only difference is now Neptune is back into Pisces, which might actually be a little bit better for the Sun in Scorpio, only because it's water and water as opposed to water, fire, and what, air, right? Okay. On the 24th, the Sun squares Pluto. And we do have Mercury trining Jupiter. Remember, at the beginning of the month, we had it square. Square is always crisis. Trine is flow. So we can see that there's probably a lot that's going to happen between the beginning of the month and when we get to this trine on the 24th. But it is a trine of, let's see, it's a trine. Jupiter's in Cancer. Mercury is in Scorpio. So it is a creative, self-expressive trine. It does have the overlay of Leo. So there can be some Leo-ness in the way we are communicating, but it's also highly creative. So we could come up with some creative solutions. And then the next day, Mercury trines Saturn. So we actually have a grand trine with Mercury, Saturn, and Jupiter all in water. So that is a lot of healing possibilities, a lot of understanding, um, a lot of tears, um, uh, and a lot of practice, hopefully, of some forgiveness, because I think we need to do that. Um, let's see. On the 28th, we have Mars trining Jupiter. Um, that can be good or bad depending on your intention. When we have anything Jupiter touches, expands. Mars now can in Scorpio has an opportunity to really get big, right? And Mars in Scorpio can be amazing healing potential. You know, Mars in Scorpio, it's a common Mars for surgeons. So we can have like surgical precision of excising something to make the whole better, right? Like a surgery might, if that particular thing in the body is sick, right? But you can also expand the negative side of Scorpio. So we do have to be quite careful. And I do want to say that I believe the Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance, this is right around his natal Mars, so we could see him doing stuff. We already saw him do stuff last month, and he is not somebody to be trusted in my estimation. You can decide for yourself. But we do have to keep an eye on that guy. All right. Let's see. Mercury trines Neptune. That's good for the imagination. And then Mercury enters Sag. Once it enters Sagittarius, foot and mouth disease, Mercury and Sag, by any chance, it opposes Uranus and then makes a sextile to Pluto. And that sextile is one in which we are forwarding the progressive ideals. So it's actually a good energy for the future with Pluto and Mercury sextile. So hopefully we have the discernment that we need to know who's who we should follow or who we should trust, perhaps. Uh, it's to be determined, right? All right. And now let's take a look at how it's going to affect you, Leo. All right. Where are we here? Okay, here we go. All right. Let me take a look here. Okay, so we're looking at specifically for you, Leo. Now, this is a month of the Sun card. And of course, the Sun is the ruling planet of Leo. So where the Sun sits is always of interest to Leo, but especially this month because of the vibrational resonance of the Sun card that we get when we add up all the numbers, right? So if we look at the Sun, we start with the Sun in Libra in your third house. And then once it moves into Scorpio, it moves into your fourth house. And so the third house and the fourth house in their way is family houses. Usually the third house is your siblings, the sort of the family you grew up in. The fourth house is also family. It's mother, father, clan, um, uh, genetic inheritance, right? So these are all times. And with Scorpio, there maybe you're doing some genealogy, trying to figure out your roots. Remember, Mars is spending the whole month in Scorpio. So you have Mars in that fourth house. Now, Mars in the fourth house in Scorpio can create issues in the family, but it's also a very healing energy and it's also a very bottom line energy. And so with Mars there and then eventually the Sun and Mercury there, we might actually get to really dig down and talk about things from the perspective from our perspective as somebody who lived in a particular family, and perhaps come to some better understanding of where you're actually from and your connections and your heritage and things like that. Venus, the planet of love, will start in your second house of money and then moved into that third house. And when it does move into the third house, remember it's making the trines to Pluto and Uranus. That's in all the air houses. So relationship in the month of October important. There's a lot of communication. There's a lot of relationship issues. There's a lot of illumination. There's a lot of change. And you might find yourself like spending a lot of time with people that you've known and new people that you haven't met. And it's really sort of juicing up the air side of your chart. And so your ability to communicate, your ability to relate, your ability to share your knowledge all gets activated this month. Mercury starts in Libra, then quickly moves into Scorpio, where it goes through the gauntlet, right? And then into Sag at the end of the month, right at the end of the month. So we do have Mercury moving through at least 3 areas of your chart: your sibling area, your family area, and then also your children. Of course, the children stuff is more likely to come up in November, because that's when Mercury is, spends more time in that house for you. You do have Jupiter in Cancer. Jupiter now is in your 12th house. This is very good. Jupiter likes being in the 12th house. Most planets don't, but there's a spiritual aspect to Jupiter and a comfort that Jupiter has, especially in a sign like Cancer, where it's exalted. So you will be getting a lot of information through your dreams. It's important that you get sleep. And that you might actually, you're getting sleep, but you might be waking up at weird times and having dreams and visions. Last night I had a very interesting dream, not one I expected to have, but there was a dream. And when I woke up in the morning, this morning, I felt strangely titillated by this dream. Strangely, like, I don't know, like it was a good feeling about the dream. And I guess that maybe I should have, like I tell people, have the thing next to you and write down what you dream. But my feeling when I woke up was one of, oh, that was, oh, like I remembered something about someone that I had known years ago who has since actually passed. So I feel like it was almost a visitation by this person in my dream. And recently, and I this may be too much information, but recently I had come to the conclusion that this person really was not all that nice to me. And like I finally put myself in my own shoes, which is a thing that sometimes I don't do. Pisces moon. Um, and then I was able to do that and say, that was really shitty. And it was years ago. I mean, we're talking 30 years ago, maybe 20 years ago. I don't know how many years ago. And I sort of I said, oh, okay, let me let that set. And then I dreamt of this person last night. And it it reminded me of some of the feelings I had when I first met them, weirdly enough. So it balanced it in a way. So that's my own personal experience. I do have a Leo rising. So I do have Jupiter now, actually just moved in to my to that house. So I'm looking forward to the dreams I'm going to have when Jupiter is in there. Uranus in the house of friends. So changes, shifts, opening up, right? More metaphysical friends, if that's possible for me. I guess it probably is, because I have metaphysical friends and I have non-metaphysical friends. Um, Here we have Saturn back in the eighth house, going to be there for a couple months. This is really a time when you got to get your finances, your taxes, all that stuff taken care of. In the time that that Saturn is in that house. And then once it moves out, then you can move on from that. But you definitely, with Saturn there, you definitely want to go by the rules and find out what it is that you need to do in order to sort of balance the scales in that. Neptune starts in the ninth house, then dips back into the eighth house. Neptune in the eighth house, been there a long time, right? It's been there about 14 years. It's time to really, Neptune and Pisces is about forgiveness. So if there's anything that and maybe that's what that dream I had was about. In a way, it was a way for me to remember that it wasn't just bad stuff, um, and that, there were good things as well, and how that balanced things out for me, and allowed me to release and let go of that whole situation. All right. I think that's where I want to stop, and we're going to do the cards now. All right, so I'm going to use the Illuminati deck, which is one that I do like to use for Leo because it's all like kings and queens and fancy, fancy schmancy. This deck, right? Well, these sort of cool, real, fancy schmancy things. I especially like the sun card in this deck. I think it's beautiful. We'll see if it'll come up maybe, huh? All right. What's up for you, Leo? So this is for Leo Sun, Leo Moon, Leo Rise. Oops. Ah, what's happening? They're jumping out of my hands. Okay. Give it. Cut it. Cut the cheese. No, cut the cards. Don't cut the cheese. Oh, okay. Let's see what we got. We have is that the prince? We have the Prince of Swords. The Prince of Swords. The Prince of Swords is somebody who jumps into the fray based on what they believe, what they know, their knowledge. They can be impulsive and uh, and definitely up for the fight. All the princes or the knights, it's the same. The prince and the knight in this deck is the same. Is the action of the element that they're in. So it's an action based on what you know in your mind and you understand. It can be an action based on maybe something legal, or certainly something that you have come to understand that you need to take an action for. So let's see what's crossing that. We have the Two of Wands. The Two of Wands is about a plan. So what I would say is with these two cards right here is don't take an action until you have a plan, until you have a vision of where you want to go, instead of just acting out of either reaction. It's not a react. You don't want to be reactionary at this time. You want to make sure if you take an action, you know what you're getting yourself into, and you have a good plan, because this indicates that you don't quite have a plan yet. In the at the root of it is nostalgia. This is about family, right? So we have very much a family vibe in October for the Leo. This is about going back to the past. So any action you take might be based on something that happened in the past. And remember what I said, the past is the past, and we can grow from it, and we can utilize talents that we've gained from it, but it's really about letting go to a certain extent of the things of the past. It's not going to be the same. It's just not going to be the same. In the past, we have the Prince of Cups. This is the action of love. This is an offering of love. And so we might be kind of nostalgic about love. Remember, the sun is in Libra, and then it goes into Scorpio. Both Libra and Scorpio are relationship energies. So we might find ourselves reminiscing about past loves, perhaps. In the sky, we have the King of Cups. So the King of Cups has dominion over his feelings. He understands. He's also very responsible and also cares. So there is either Spirit is telling us we care and we will help you and we will take care of you, or there is somebody out there who can actually help you. I oftentimes see this particular card as a good accountant. So I gotta find myself a good accountant. And then in the card for the whole month is the Temperance card. So this is about balance. It's about healing. But temperance is difficult. It is a difficult energy because you're being tempered. You're being made more erect or more uh, erect in this way, like straight up and down, more aligned with your spirit. And it happens because you're being exposed to extremes. We're all being exposed to extremes, right? uh we look around and we're like, that's not really the thing. That person seems like they've gone way too far by saying that, or the president said this, that's too extreme. Like, there's all these extremes, and you have to sort of walk the middle path with this. So make sure you're walking the middle path, because the more that you do that and the less you get distracted from the extremes, you'll have a plan by the end of the month, I think. How people see you from the outside: somebody who gets everything they want. Everything they want. Nothing wrong with that, right? In domestic situation, we have the Queen of Swords. The Queen of Swords is very just, and she's got good judgment. So this is saying use good judgment in your home. Hold on one second. Somebody's using a thing outside and making a big noise. Hold on. I'll be right there, guys. Okay. One of my neighbors, I think, cut down some, or had some trees cut down, and I think the guys are back to sort of chop it up. All right. And so it's noisy and I want to hear it. So utilize good judgment in your home. You got to put the sword down and say, nope, that's not here. Not here. You got to do that. Hopes and fears, the Five of Wands. This is a little bit chaotic, kind of a melee, fighting, partisanship. I think you're ready for that to end. But maybe you are hoping for it, so I'm not going to tell you what you're doing. Outcome is the Four of Swords. This is about rest. So I think by the end of the month, you might feel like you need a rest, or that you go for a rest, or that you actually take the time to isolate yourself so you can get your mind back in alignment. We have the King of Pentacles. I'm going to pick three to see if we can get a major arcana. So that's about manifestation and how to manifest. The Princess of Cups, which is good news coming, and the Eight of Pentacles. So that account that you that you find may actually have some good news for you, um, about, what you're doing is how you're making money is actually a successful thing. Underneath, we have the Four of Cups, which is just, Wands, which is the celebration. The Two of Cups, which is love, and then the Nine of Wands, which is healthy boundaries. So again, you can have a good time. Maybe you'll meet somebody new, but you have to make sure that you keep healthy boundaries no matter what, no matter how much fun you're having. You want to have the healthy boundaries. Okay. So that's the story. Interesting. Sounds like an interesting October to me, this Leo rising. All right. I wouldn't mind a spa retreat at the end of October. I think that would be good. I might have to put that on my agenda. I'll put it on my wish list. All right. And then the last thing I want to do is pull a uh spirit ally, a crystal ally card. I've been pulling these for all the signs. So this now many of these crystals are easily accessible, so you can just pick one up for a few dollars. Like it's the ones that are more common. If you happen to get one that's uncommon, and you say, I can't afford a piece of moldavite, in case you're wondering, that's what this is, moldavite. Um, you can always take a picture, have a picture of it, or get a really small piece and put it next to a crystal point or just a regular quartz, because it will magnify the energy. But again, you can just look at a picture of it and still get the energy from it. So maybe put it on the thing, like on your computer, how you have pictures come up. Put a picture of the crystal that you're working with this month. So then you can say, oh, there's the crystal I'm working with this month. And you get the energy. Here we go. This one you might have to take a picture of. Damberite. Damn right. This is spirit. This is about all your guides, your angels, your aliens, whoever it is that's around you. They want you to know that spirit is right there for you. It is a storm card. And so know that through the storms that you have the support and love and aid of spirit. You just have to remember to ask for the help. Okay? So if you're having difficulty making decisions, if you're having difficulties figuring out the plan, what do you want your future to look like? Ask your guides. They will help you. They'll help you to discern what it is. All right. So Danbarite, it is a little bit more of expensive crystal. I actually don't even have one of these. So as a Leo rising, I'm going to have to use, I'll probably put this card on my altar for the month of October. And these cards are called the Crystal Ally cards. It's by a woman, Naisha Ashian. Um, and they're fantastic. And you could get the deck and have if this is the crystal you're working with all month, you could do what I do. Put it somewhere you're going to see it or put it on your altar. All right, that's story, Morning Glories. Have yourself a good month. Take care of yourself, please. Don't do anything drastic too quickly. Really sort of sit back and, in a way, watch the world go round. Um, we will have an opportunity. We'll have some opportunities this month, but we will continue to have more and more opportunities to really see our vision take take form. But you have to make sure you're focused on what it is you want to see instead of what you don't. All right. Take care, everyone. Namaste.